One of the questions that keeps popping up is if the Xbox 360 servers are closing. This seems to be a discussion that is coming fairly often and has been for a number of years. I don't know where this information is really coming from, but I thought we would dive into that and kind of how long we expect the servers to kind of keep going as of, well, 2024 really, right? So be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. It's another one of those topics of conversation that I'm kind of doing now, so let's dive in. So, no, the Xbox 360 servers are not closing. There are no plans for Microsoft to shutter the 360 servers, and I don't think they will for quite a long time. So, what is happening that is confusing a lot of people is that the Xbox 360 store and or marketplace is being shuttered for the Xbox 360. So on the Xbox 360, you'll still be able to download your games, play the digital games, and enjoy them like you always have. It's just that you will no longer be able to buy Xbox 360 games digitally through the store and other elements of purchases through the 360. So that is part of the idea of slowly phasing out that part of Xbox gaming, which is obviously sad, but I mean, it is decades old almost. Yeah. So for context, the original Xbox servers, those were shuttered well over a decade ago. And then we've seen a kind of a small effort to kind of bring those servers back to some degree, not from Microsoft, but like a third party company is kind of making those available, which is really cool. But for that one, the original Xbox, you can't buy anything on there. You can't do any sort of multiplayer, no updates, no DLC, nothing. That one is dead. But you can still buy the games through backwards compatibility on Series X, S, Xbox One, any weird future Xbox hardware for the foreseeable future. The same is going to be the case with the Xbox 360. So the Xbox 360 servers are being totally kept open and fine. It's the marketplace that is being shuttered. So you won't be able to buy games through that console, like I said, but you will still be able to buy backwards compatible Xbox 360 games on the existing platforms, which I just literally mentioned: Series XS, Xbox One, cloud stuff, and everything like that the Xbox ecosystem goes. Anywhere you can buy 360 games through backwards compatibility, as you have been before, you can continue to do so. Now, over time, more of these games are likely to get delisted. More of these games are likely to have their servers shut down if they're not like first party stuff, if they're third party games. But the reason I don't see the 360 stuff closing at any point is some of these games still sell well. Some of these games are still thriving. Microsoft Xbox just bought Activision Blizzard as the time of doing this video. And obviously, they got all the Call of Duty games from a historical standpoint. Those are still popular. They're going to leverage that nostalgia and those older games for Game Pass. And part of that is keeping those original servers going. Because if you close the 360 servers, then the multiplayer doesn't function for the Call of Duty games, and they lose a whole benefit of why they basically bought the company in the first place. Or, well, obviously it was for mobile gaming, but you get what I mean as far as like a Game Pass advantage. Closing the servers of the Call of Duty games wouldn't do them any good, and I think there would be some pretty severe backlash from the Xbox community. I know I would be voicing my opinion very angrily about it. There is a context of like, should this stuff last forever? Everything is finite, nothing lasts forever. But also the idea of, hey, we still regularly use this, you promote these games, you sell these games, you showcase them, there's still something we want to enjoy the full scope of. Because, well, in the modern era, games are so online, integrated, online focused. The 360 was kind of like this middle ground between traditional offline and online action. And it would just be kind of a shame that so much of the experience of those games would just vanish like that. That would be terrible. I don't think that, like, I would hate that, right? There's so many of my favorites that are still like trapped on the 360. They don't have remasters, they don't have remakes, and the only way to play them on modern hardware is through the backwards compatibility of the, Series XS, Xbox One, cloud, and so forth, so forth. And hopefully they keep that going for a long time, as long as those games are still available. But like I did say, there is going to be a certain point where we're going to see more and more of them delisted due to music licensing or just not wanting to pay for servers, or they're just not making enough money, which is why I always recommend that you buy 360 games, original Xbox games that are backwards compatible when they're on sale on Xbox if you do want to own them for the long term, because I do imagine the games you buy now will still be supported as long as the Xbox exists. How long is that going to be? The future is iffy at this point, but like there is an element of longevity that I think is worth kind of buying into and preserving from that perspective. Sure, you can always pop in and play your 360, but you're not going to be able to buy anything on there. And as long as the Xbox consoles kind of exist and they support backwards compatibility, they can't close the 360 servers from your original 360. Because some people are always like, oh, there's hackers, cheaters, modders, whatever in the original Call of Duty games, and yes, there is. But you can't get rid of them. Because the only reason to get rid of, or the only way to get rid of them would be to close the 360 servers, right? But that's how those games work through backwards compatibility, is they're just running, they're emulating those original games. So closing the 360 servers, getting rid of the hackers, would also make it so you can't play multiplayer on the Series XS, right? Just in case you didn't know that. So now you do. And that is a really good thing, is kind of like the idea that you can still enjoy generational games, and it keeps the 360 alive, because the 360 is a very special part of gaming, and it would really suck to lose that. I think someday we'll get to a point where they do close down the 360, but there's so many games that aren't backwards compatible, that are stuck to that specific hardware, that have essential multiplayer updates. And it's like it would be impossible to kind of like download that all or enjoy that all. And then there's the achievement system would be gone from the 360 era. You'd lose all these like friends and multiplayer elements, like the Xbox One and then the Series XS afterwards and everything else is basically built on the foundations of the 360 Xbox Live architecture, which is now the Xbox Network under Xbox Game Pass Core or whatever you have, or Ultimate. And it's kind of like Windows. Windows is built on Windows, built on Windows. And like, I know obviously the architecture is a little bit different, but from an online standpoint, the 360 servers are very, very important. But I digress. The most important part of this whole thing that hopefully you got, and maybe you, I don't know, left and clicked off right away, is the idea that, like, again, the servers for the 360 are not closing. I don't know why that keeps getting asked, why that discussion's being pushed around. I could see maybe there's some level of confusion because Xbox is terrible at their messaging and their details. Although I think for this one, it's pretty straightforward what they've said or what they've noted. I think some people might be getting confused. So again, it's just your ability to purchase content through a 360, but you're still able to purchase that content that is backwards compatible through the Xbox Series XS, Xbox One Cloud, blah, 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 as long as those games don't get delisted, as long as they don't get removed. Your online multiplayer for your nostalgic Call of Duties or other games, totally fine. You're free to keep going, having a great time, playing those games just like you always have, which I think is great. And nothing is happening with those, and nothing should be happening for the foreseeable future, hopefully. And I hope that we continue to enjoy these 360 games multiplayer-wise for at least, I don't know, the span of the Series XS would be great. If there is another Xbox generation afterwards, hopefully they keep it going through that, as, again, it would be a very, very sad day for me, and I'm sure for many others, if they were to close the Xbox 360 servers. Again, like, from a financial standpoint, I don't get the point of it. From actual, like, standpoint of the 360 marketplace, too, I don't really understand why they would want to close those servers. Like, even Phil Spencer made a statement where he's like, I'd love to save these, and it's like, well, you run Xbox, you can make that choice. But I believe it's a combination of licensing older architecture. I mean, they listed all those Valve games and Jet Set like a year ago, and I think it's just the time is running out for that kind of store. It's a bit of a shame, but I can see that it would be very hard to keep that going because it is a bit of a mess. If you ever tried to buy a 360 game online through the old marketplace, it was terrible. But yeah, so for now, servers are great. Foreseeable future, servers are great. It's just buying stuff on the 360 is going to be gone, but you can still buy stuff on the current gen consoles. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful. Hope you found this insightful. Liking the video is great, subscribing is great as well, and we'll have more to talk about in the future, I think.